What's up, family and friends of Talk To Em podcast. This is new. We're going to go live on the page for the first time. This is going to be a callback episode. As you see here, we got Chris Wiggins with us again, who is the Pulitzer nominated host for the Weekly Shift podcast, the current chair of the Democratic Freedom Caucus, and the 2016 primary winner for the U.S. Representatives in California's 37th District. We're glad to have you back, Chris.
Thanks, TG. I'm glad to be here.
Also with us, I know you guys see a new face in here. We have Nazirah Purnell. I know her as Nas, the captain of the track team. She's currently attending Lincoln University, pursuing a degree in political science and a pre-law certificate. I'll leave Nas information in the description below because we want to congratulate her on recently being accepted into Yale, the #1 law school in the country. Now, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to cover what we've talked about before, Trump's acquittal. First, we talked about his impeachment. Now we're going to go on the acquittal of Donald Trump. Many people knew that he was going to get off, but some had many questions on, will he really get off? Will the Democrats be able to pull their weight and do what they said they was going to do? They were going to bring charges against Trump for inciting insurrection on the Capitol, and he got off on that. What do you think about this, Chris? Let's get your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Oh, look, thanks. Number one, thanks for being here. Really love coming on the show. Glad to be here and glad to, and let me make sure I'm pronouncing it correct. Nazirah, glad to have you and be able to engage in discourse with you as well. Yeah. So in regards to your question, look, I will say, while I know that there's a feeling from fellow progressives that, hey, this is a shot in the foot, but you got to look at sort of how, look, no one's been removed. No one's been convicted in the Senate before. It just hasn't happened. So to get a president in order to have this sort of them to have a trial twice, right, is monumental. And let's make no mistake here, right? I think that there's progress. We came into this thinking that this was Trump's party in every capacity. I see where individuals could say, well, look, it's still got to be Trump's party because they acquitted him. But you had 8 people, GOP, who decided that they would break ranks. 8 individuals who theoretically, you look at sort of Mitt Romney, he's not up for re-election for a while or so, but you had powerful voices like Ben Sasse. You have someone such as Collins and Murkowski, I believe, who were on thin ice in their most recent elections. They came out and said, you know what? This is not good enough. These are the norms. I'd say that, look, as my opinion on this, I'd say that civics won within this capacity. Trump has a scarlet letter on him. He's been impeached twice. He has had 2 votes brought to the Senate as well, with more and more Republican support to get rid of him. This whole thing of what do they call it, Trump-Publican or Trumpican or whatever they call it. That is not as daunting of a concern as we thought that it might be. There are still a lot of sane individuals on the right. So the most I can say about this is simply put, I think that we go into this looking at sort of how both sides engage. I think that things can be a lot more prosperous with the scarlet letter that is Trump out of the way, because we're not going to hear from him again. His brand is damaged. He's not on Twitter. He's not on social media. His Instagram has always been meh anyway. So we move into this in a new direction of the country.
And I picked up on something you said, Chris. You said it was 8 Republicans who were willing to turn their vote against Trump. Do you think that many other Republicans didn't turn their vote against Trump because of the re-elections coming up? And do you believe that Trump will run again due to his acquittal? Do you think that Republicans won't allow that to happen?
Yeah, I'll say this, right? The first part of your question, do I think that the individuals that voted in favor of him, that came down to partisanship, right? If you look at the 8 people, it wasn't necessarily anything new, because you had some people that were seen as loyal to party, not necessarily loyal to Trump, who did that. However, I'd argue that that's the lesser of 2 evils. At the same time, you still had individuals who are completely in bed with Trump. In the sense, what I mean by that is that there are a lot of individuals who came coming of age. Their wonder years, right? There's no their wonder years were sort of Trump being president, that being within the House and that being within the Senate. And you certainly look at people like Josh Hawley if you wanted to. There's nothing that we can expect from those individuals. And look, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, they've always lacked. Both of them have about half of a backbone between the two of them and all. So those aren't the individuals that we would count on. As it relates to necessary, hey, the individuals that held tight were the individuals that we knew would held tight. However, what I do think is that when you see that there's a growing trend where we're not just going like, hey, look at Mitt Romney, this is monumentous in that he broke the ranks, right? Where it's a, hey, whoa, we have 8 people that we really look up to, and make no mistake, right? Ben Sasse of Nebraska, he's formidable. And so if you say that, hey, we have these powerful voices that we can look up to, and we can see that, hey, you know what, there is viability here. We can ditch the Trumpness. I think that your second part of the question, I think, was whether Trump would run again. Look, that question on his face is simply, does a man who loves attention, is he going to run and put himself in a situation where he would get a ton of news coverage? Listen, was Carl Lewis fast? Simply put, Trump will run again. The question is, how far does he get? I don't see this as a man that makes it through the primaries. You look at sort of, hey, could he do well in New Hampshire? No. Could he do well in the sort of states in the Republican primaries of sort of more left-leaning states? No. You're forgetting as one thing, right? Whether he runs or not, when we talk about the question of viability and can he make it through, this is a man that lost Georgia. This is a man that lost Arizona. This is a man that lost Nevada. My estimation is he does not have the votes to be the general election nominee. So I don't see this. As any kind of a threat or something that we should be fearful of or worry about. I think you're gonna have a new crop of Republicans. I'm looking towards Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, and then also the person who gave him that job, that being the former Ambassador Haley, and potentially Sasse as well.
Thank you, Chris. Naz, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I just want to, well, first off, thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. Secondly, I completely agree with Chris saying that civics won. I mean, we can only go based off of history and the fact that 8 Republicans voted to convict him, made this the most bipartisan impeachment effort in American history. So, I mean, aside from last year, no senators had ever voted to convict a president from their own party. So like you said, initially, the 2/3 vote, which would have cleared the way for a simple majority to bar him from holding office, was extremely unlikely, and everyone involved knew it. I could leave you with a quote from Representative Madeline Dean from Pennsylvania. She's an impeachment manager, and during the trial, she said in closing arguments that if we don't set this right and call it what it is, the highest of constitutional crimes by the President of the United States, the past will not be the past, it will be the future. So it will be deemed to go back in time and, all of the progress that we've made. Other than that, I wasn't thinking about whether or not Trump would be able to win. Again, I thought it was highly unlikely, but as of right now, he does remain the most popular national figure in the Republican Party. So I'm interested to see how the tables kind of turn with that.
Thank you, Naz. And with this impeachment, I appreciate you bringing up that quote. This goes back to my last episode. During the impeachment, Trump's lawyers were proving that it was his First Amendment right to say what he said on the stage that night, which led the Capitol rioters to go to the Capitol and did what they did. Do you think that with this acquittal, it will open up space for more public representatives to use their First Amendment right to incite whatever they choose to incite? I'll go with Chris and then I'll go with Naz.
Certainly fascinating question. Look, listen, it's a slippery slope in every capacity. Look, with this acquittal, though I said that civics won, a new precedent is really set. And you can make the case that, number one, Trump's presidency has amended the Constitution. Like obviously not formally, but informally, there are essentially, Trump has opened up a few different amendments or what have you, right? And what's most pertinent amongst that is that he's allowed individuals to have a rubber stamp to not have responsibility for the words that come out of their mouth and the influence. And I might have mentioned this on the last time I was on the episode. One of the things maybe I didn't mention the last time I was there, but I brought up how when Bernie Sanders was the nominee, a bunch of candidates jumped on him for the sort of Bernie bros and the behavior. And he goes, "What are you inspiring?" The same question is that is even more so evident and important of a question of Donald Trump. What has he inspired? Not necessarily not necessarily like where it's Bernie Sanders where people just fervently love him and there's no rhetoric that necessarily matches the accused actions or anything. We're in a situation where Donald Trump, where it's like, hey, Proud Boys, stand back, where the individual knows what his base is and does not want to repudiate them on national television when he gets a shot. We've opened up the door in the amendments in the Constitution, informal amendments in the Constitution, where it is okay to say whatever you want, incite violence, to be an insurrectionist, to call into question the legal, the legal and the civic norms that have long been a bulwark of this country, to call that into question, right, in favor of your own bravado, right, and incite your worshipers to go and attempt to overthrow the government. That is a new informal amendment where that won't be called out, where it won't be called seriously. You don't take things at face value. I'll say this: if an individual were to say, like Mark Lamont Hill is a good example. And sorry to get off topic here. Mark Lamont Hill, right, got fired from CNN for saying that we should support Palestine from the earth, from the land to the sea or so, right? And that was enough for him to lose his job. Imagine if Mark Lamont Hill were a politician, a Democrat, and were to have said that. You best believe he would be impeached for going against an ally, being accused of going against an ally in Israel or so. Donald Trump can say things much, much more pointed, much more violent, and much more vitriolic, and he's been given a rubber stamp. This means that he's going to have copycat killers. Look, and I don't want to be demeaning of anyone towards mass shootings or so, but if you remember when Columbine happened, essentially, right, one of the things they said that the coverage of this led to a lot of copycats and individuals trying to become famous, right? I see that happening here, and in no way do I want to compare the two, but I do see this here in the situation where we're going to have individuals that say, you know what, I can test the loyalty and the power of my words, right, and see how loyal my base is by telling them like, hey, this election was a screw job. This, the whole norms within this country are absolute bull, and let's go ahead and see if we can overthrow everyone, and they won't face any consequences. That's the reality of what we're facing.
Exactly what it is. Thank you, Chris. Naz, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just would add my personal opinion is the senators who chose to turn a blind eye to the situation. I personally find it to be pathetic, and I know that we need to hold them accountable. I mean, Mitch McConnell's reason for not voting guilty was that Trump was no longer in office. And I mean, if you look at any other profession, a doctor who might have made a mistake and killed a patient, these are things that they'd be held accountable for, So it's sad. It's unfortunate that this is the direction that our country's going in.
Thank you, Naz. And for Mitch McConnell not to vote guilty, it kind of turned the chapters in such a way. Mitch McConnell was one of the people on the Republican Party who originally led the chase, who said he might vote guilty, but I guess when he got inside the Senate, things changed. But now people are starting to call it a Democratic witch hunt. As you can tell, the Democrats have not given up yet. The NAACP and Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi is now suing Trump and his lawyer Rudy Giuliani for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. If you don't know which act that is, that's the U.S. Code, Title 42, Chapter 21, Subchapter 1, Section 1985, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. What the congressman is saying is that Rudy Giuliani and Trump, along with the Proud Boys, the number one weird group, is conspired to incite the Capitol revolution on January 6th, and that blocked the congressman from reaffirming that President Biden's win. Do you think that this lawsuit will fall through? That's question number one. But also, now that the Democrats have lost the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. Many people are also bringing up charges on Trump. Trump's also faced many charges for potential financial crimes committed within his business ventures, both in the District of Columbia and Manhattan. The investigation started in 2016, but with Trump becoming president, it set up many obstacles, and many of the attorney generals weren't able to pursue these cases. Do you think that he will be charged with at least one of these crimes, or do you think he'll get another pass? We'll go ahead and start with Nas this time, and then we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I would go back to what Chris was saying earlier, where if you look at this being the second impeachment effort, more and more Republican senators are starting to gain confidence to move over to the other side. So it's a possibility. I'm leaning towards yes, but again, I don't want to get my hopes up.
And a lot of people got their hopes up last time and got them shot down. Chris, what do you have to say about this?
Definitely. Repeat the question one more time for me. Sorry.
So with all these charges coming up against the former president Donald Trump, do you think he'll be charged with at least one, whether it's the lawsuit from the NAACP or the Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson, or the Attorney General of District of Columbia, or the Attorney General of Manhattan? Do you think he'll at least get one of them, if not all of them?
Certainly, definitely. Look, I'll say this. I would venture to guess that the NAACP one's probably going to go the furthest. When you look at the specific Ku Klux Klan Act, for those of you who may not be in the know, it's also called the Enforcement Act. I think it was of 1871. It's been amended a few different times with sections that are longer. Look, textbook case number one that the Proud Boys and the individuals involved in this Capitol insurrection are guilty. One of the key parts of that is simply that you're not allowed to overthrow federal government or try to leave with federal land or monuments or anything like that. Look, they did that. I'm pretty sure if you just take like a pin off of Pelosi's desk or something like that, it counts as a federal monument. Not to be glib about what occurred. I think that in some cases, I see that the NAACP one would probably go the furthest. Some of the others, I do have to look and see what is the makeup of the courts. Now, one thing that Trump has been effective at, and I hope that every Democrat finds a way to look at this and use this portion as a model, he has been great in populating federal courts with judges, district court judges and appellate court judges who are young and conservative. What's key is for any of these sort of suits to take hold, they have to have a favorable judge, they have to have a judge that's gonna be neutral. Well, hopefully the judge will be neutral, but they need to interpret the statute and the laws, accordingly and see where they apply. I'm unfamiliar with what the judicial appointment, or who's sort of the incumbent judge over in the jurisdictions that these fall under. So, but I would have to imagine that particularly within Maryland, I know that there have been a series of appointments that would be pro-conservative. Historically, they've been favorable to the individuals that have gotten them selected and nominated for these judgeships. So. It's without having necessarily the knowledge to sort of say, I would just have to venture to guess, right? Just like how it's tilted right now, because it does skew heavily conservative. Just the people that are in district courts. I only see one of those statutes going, like you said, or like we had spoken about, right? You can expect this to come down to party lines. And we have individuals that may not be okay with saying, you know what, this person is out of office. Let's wash our hands of it and move on. It's the whole Gerald Ford thing. Hey, let's not. I'm not going to crucify Nixon. Let's go ahead and let the country heal. I could honestly see a lot of judges doing that just because they feel like there is no matter in this. But Nas had said it best. If you're in trouble for malpractice, just because you lose your job doesn't mean they go, the lawsuit's out of the way. Okay, that person's lost their job. No, there's still hurt that happens. So my thing is like, look, they should pursue these. These all should go to trial as well. Trump has done one of the reasons that Trump wanted to make sure that he got the Supreme Court pact is to get rid of the double jeopardy implication where he pardons individuals federally and then they're tried in state courts. And that's why you saw him making sure and breaking all the types of norms that Republicans set around lame duck judicial appointments, right? To ensure that he covered his ass. So I don't have a lot of hope for this or so, but I think the right thing to do would be for these to proceed forward with trials and the convictions to occur.
That's an interesting topic. Just got something in on my phone. Republicans are now trying to pass 76 bills in under 6 days. Each bill has 59 pages attached to the bill. One of the bills include voters to have two forms of ID before voting. Another one will be making mail-in ballots more of the norm. Do you think 76 bills will be manageable within under 6 days? Or do you think this is just another way of getting back for chasing their political, their party's leader for so long? We'll go with Chris first.
So yeah, it's not manageable. Look, it's look, I don't know how many you have like lawyers at your jobs or anything like that. But look, give them a give them a request or what have you. It's probably going to take them 2 days to just analyze it and then get back to you with like those initial discovery questions. That's just the reality of things. And we're talking about, you said potentially 56 pages of text on some of the bills.
59.
And there's 76 different what do you call it? There's 76 different bills. Yeah, okay. That's just not happening. So to your second part of the question, so that's not manageable. And look, but let's be honest, Congress members don't look at all of the bills in full text. They'll pass things just like, all right, well, let's have our staff do a cursory look at it, and then if it sounds good, we'll push forward. And so that enormity might be a lot for them to look at, and they could just say, all right, we'll let some of these slide through the crack. Now, these bills, some of them involving voting, sort of voter ID. It seems like there's a few voter ID laws and all. Look, this number one, I don't think that's a case of them trying to get back at the leader. That's just a case of racism, simply put. In regards to the sheer volume of these, that is a case of, hey, we want to make Biden and we want to make the new Democrats look feckless. We want to make it look like they ain't doing anything. That's simply what they're trying to do. Look, they are trying to directly attack Biden's first 100 days. You tie them up in sort of dealing with meaningless not to say all of it's meaningless, right? But you get them, tie them up in debates around legislation that they're not proposing. You can make Biden's first 100 days same week. Then that can have repercussions as you look into going into year two, and as you look into going to the midterms next year.
Yes, and I'm glad you stated that about that, but I'll let Nas respond before I go back to what you said. You can go, Nas.
Yeah, I would say Chris pretty much covered it all. I mean, I don't think it's realistic at all. And again, reiterating the two forms of ID while voting, that's reverting back to the Jim Crow era. It's a form of voter suppression, and I just don't think it'll happen.
And I don't think anybody thinks it'll happen, but back to what Chris said, you said it's not manageable and it's a form of racism. It's not a form of getting back. This is just something that I had on my solo episode, last episode. Trump claims First Amendment, but he violated people's constitutional right to vote. Who is Trump to tell people who voted where and get his supporters to go out to polls to stop people from voting? Now, if he wasn't charged with that crime, that shows that anybody can get away with anything. And it's very disturbing to see what the country is now turning into. They're putting many restrictions on the constitutional rights that we were once given. And although it's not direct, it's general restrictions, which will ultimately stop people from trying. And it's really bad. And just talking about Biden's first 100 days, Biden is taking a new turn. He's starting to take it back to the Obama administration. Biden put restrictions on ICE, and here are a couple other restrictions that he put. ICE can no longer arrest undocumented immigrants that are encountered on a case that does not involve them. He also made field offices coordinate with each other to trace their paperwork in all the field offices to make sure that both offices are pre-approved and no immigrant gets lost in the system. Now, when evaluating, and also the last one that he put on there was when evaluating a non-citizen who is potentially a threat to public safety officers and agents should take into consideration, are they a public figure? What have they done for their community? You got to consider their personal and families in this, in taking them in. And you also have to be more considerate before arresting an immigrant and trying to prosecute them and send them back. What do you think about this, Chris?
Right on. So look, very at the very start, right? Like applause to Biden on day one in office. I believe he had an executive order that came out, or maybe may not have been necessarily day one, but essentially reverting back to the disastrous immigration policy that we saw during the Trump administration. Biden immediately went and addressed that through executive order, which is common. Which for all those out there, I don't know if you have any conservative listeners, but it's actually common that you do get a few executive orders to that you execute within that first week that strip away sort of policies made by the previous administration and to be done without congressional vote. So applause to him on that. However, look, one of the big things is that all of this tent cities and everything involved in that did not, it got more media attention during Trump, did not start with Trump. The separation of families, the degradation of that is a very Trump-like thing, and it didn't. And going after non-criminals, that all started with Trump. The policy, the issue here is the cages. The issue is human rights and all. And with Biden trying to go back to something, I don't know if y'all play Madden out there, right? They got rid of franchise mode about 10 years back, right? And then they'll re-release it and go, hey, we brought back franchise mode, right? And that's not a new update. You went back to something that was bad and all. And this is what is happening here. And not to be glib about people's lives in any capacity. What we need to be seeing from President Biden is we need to see in the United States that says, hey, you know what? We've gotten immigration wrong. And we have a lot of tax-paying citizens that are here, many of them undocumented, that choose to be a part of the American fabric within life, and who are contributing to society and paying taxes in the society. These people should be U.S. citizens. We should relook at, and we should really be relooking at how we address border security. Putting people in cages, that's not what a first world country does. That is not what a second world country does. You expect that out of third world countries and authoritarian regimes. The stain on this country involves bondage and servitude. We don't need anything that resembles that. So for Biden to take sort of, and I call it a pusillanimous approach, as it was weak, right? You're rolling back a few different areas and just saying, oh, okay, well, we aren't going to go after individuals that are non-criminals. Like, no, we need to address immigration holistically. So that's legit what I have to say about these new policies. Like ICE, I'm not an abolish ICE type of person. However, I do think that we need to reform there. They should, their job there, right, is involves immigration, customs, and enforcement, right? It seems like most of the publicity they get is strictly focused on their abuses on the immigration side of things. They should be there for enforcement, not to mistreat individuals, not to beat them down, not to take kids, not to put them in cages, not to take them down to the Texas, the El Paso and Juarez and Mexico border and leave them there to get raped and pissed on and all kinds of stuff like that. That's not who we are as a country. Biden should be addressing that directly. He should be addressing the fact that immigration in this country is the way that is because we're trying to chase something that we cannot win. This is the greatest country in the world, and it is a great place to be. The expectation should be that people want to come here. The individuals that are already here, I don't care whether they have a social security card or not. Those are Americans. They deserve to be here. We should say, you know what? We didn't handle it. We didn't handle it the best over the last previous years and everything. We're going to proceed with amnesty. We'll address how we can monitor and make it easier for individuals to come here while being able to track them, monitor them, and help them become acclimated into American society.
I agree with you 100%. And when you stated that it didn't start under Trump's administration, we'll get back to that after we allow Nas to respond to the question.
Mm-hmm. So this is basically just, Biden has been receiving a lot of criticism from the left. Since his inauguration, over 25,000 immigrants have been deported. And to my understanding, the biggest issue in this all is that ICE is literally just ignoring his orders. So it's kind of like Joe Biden is letting a rogue agency walk all over him. Like Chris said, it's weak, and that's the problem. So we need to keep pressure on Biden. I mean, he has the power to force ICE's hand. He just needs to do it. It's early, but if we take our foot off the pedal, then we won't see any real change.
That's an issue with people disregarding the chain of command. The guy is obviously in position of authority because he was voted in. Now with the cages issue on the border, you stated, Chris, that it didn't start with Trump. Now it actually stricken through the Obama administration, in which Biden was a VP. Do you think he's trying to get it back as strict as Obama had it, or you think he's trying to erase and rebuild? What do you think?
Listen, the fact of the matter is there have been jokes that Biden's whole campaign was, look, I supported Obama and I was his vice president. We had some great times and we saved the auto administration. We gave you health care, and that's all he would campaign on. So as president, what I'm seeing is a guy, and look, the norm has been media saying, oh, well, a lot of people are voting for Biden because they want to return to Obama era. Everything that he is doing is these are products of trying to do what Obama did. I don't think that he's out there trying to make changes. Like one of the things, the guidelines that the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, went from aliens. I think they changed the term from aliens to non-citizens or something like that, or something of the sort, right?
Yes,
Look, they changed it from aliens to non-citizens, right? That's not strong, right? What we call them, how about how we treat them? You know, I look at it like this, you know, the Obama administration, what they did with immigration, they took the typical the sort of typical neoliberal approach, if you will, right? And I'm not saying that it's bad or good, right? Neoliberalism, but I think in this case of, hey, we want to be war hawks, we want to be gun hawks, and we want to be security hawks on these kind of things, you know. And we don't care if someone is degraded. We don't care to fix the issue. We want to put band-aids on everything, you know. And that's what I'm seeing out of Biden right now. There hasn't been any revolution from him. And think of it like this. You have a guy who has legit nothing to lose. Biden's 78 years old. Nothing that if he does something radical or revolutionary right now, right, it's not like it's going to plague him for the rest of his life. Or, well, I guess it could, right? But it's not like he has like 25 plus years or whatever where he's going to be dogged by scandal. He has a chance to make significant changes, and that is not occurring specifically as it relates to ICE here.
I thank you for saying that. You said Biden has nothing to lose. Well, Chris, I'll have to disagree with you on that one. Biden actually has everything to lose. With all the odds going against him, he can violate and completely destroy everything that Obama has fought for in his presidency. This man can either bring the country together or he can destroy it. And as of right now, this country needs some type of uplifting to bring us back together. So what will Biden actually do? Will he actually step up and be what we need him to be? As I asked him back before, yes, he's making all of these changes, putting all of these laws into place and trying to change ICE, for example, but ICE isn't listening. Are people completely disregarding what Biden is saying because they just simply don't take him serious because they came from a president who did whatever they wanted? Or is this just some type of show? Like some people, this is just a hand. As of right now, it's a political party, the left versus the right, and they're just trying to see who's gonna win at this point. It's the charades, and it's sad to say that many more people will get hurt in this, whether it's because they lose their job or whether it's because they just simply fall into the wrong category and the laws that are being applied just simply don't apply to them. This is why on Talk To Em podcast, we encourage everyone to get up and learn about your district, learn about your local government, learn about the federal government, learn what's going on. You got to understand that the system isn't entirely in your hand. That's why you have to learn and you have to play it just like you have to play you. And I appreciate everybody listening tonight. We thank Chris for coming in. We thank Nas for coming in. And we appreciate the professionals that continue to do their job to fight for those who no longer want to fight for themselves. And as I told you before, political conversations can get heated. Some people will not like what you say, but you have to say it anyway, because if you don't say it, then who will? And that's in the business of Talk To Em podcast. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? We'll continue this episode. We'll raise more questions. When we come back, we'll be talking about what's going on in Texas, how Ted Cruz decided to abandon his country, and how Texas Mayor Tim Boyd decided to just say what was on his mind, I guess. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.